Academic session number 5 is focused on museum management in modern technology. We have got 3 presentations. The session is to be presided over by Mr. A. N. Mishra. I request him to come to the head table, please. Mr. A. N. Mishra is the Under Secretary at the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. The presenters are Dr. Kavan Ratnatunga, Sri Lanka. Please come to the head table. Professor Satyen Ghosh and Tushar Agrawal. Please come to the head table. And Mr. Abhishek Gureja, also from India. Over to you, Mr. Mishra.
I am really fortunate and I am thankful to SAARC Cultural Center that they have given me an opportunity to chair before this August assembly. And particularly with reference to museum management and modern technology. Though it's a post-plunge session, but the modern technology will, I think, the 3 learned delegates from different parts of our SAARC meeting will certainly be able to light your mind and will present some valuable inputs to take forward the objectives of SAARC Cultural Center. Now, I request Dr. Kavan Ratnatunga from Sri Lanka, who is going to present a paper on curating museum numismatic collections in the digital era.
Thank you for inviting me to give this talk, and to excuse me, I will speak from this end. I don't like to be too far away from my view graphs. So the talk today I'm going to give you about is coins. That is my hobby, and I have tried to get involved with the coin collections in this museum and many other museums, and just talk about the experience I had. So museums, as defined by ICOM, is a non-profit making permanent institution which services and acquires, conserves, research and communicates and exhibits. So it is supposed to bring all these objects and not just hide it away and look after them. It's supposed to share it with everybody. So museums have a particular responsibility of making collections and all relevant information available as freely as possible, having regard to restraints arising from reasons of confidentiality and security. That's an ICOM Code of Ethics of 2006, and must continuously evolve with new technology. And that's what we are talking about today, is to bring new technology to improve our museum experience of visitors as well as researchers. So basically, to try to go into new technology, you must try to digitize this information so that you can share it with the world and not just the people who can come to the museum, and that our culture could be shared with the whole world rather than with only the people who visit Sri Lanka, which is a small number compared to the global population that is interested in Sri Lanka. I started a website back in 1998 for this thing, and I'm sort of continuing with the same theme of trying to put more information on the internet about Sri Lanka. These virtual museums are definitely not a replacement for the real thing, because seeing a picture is not the same as actually seeing an object real life. So I would rather want to go to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa, not just a photograph of the Mona Lisa, which I have seen all the time, On the other hand, if I cannot go to the Louvre, then a picture is better than thing. And if you make that picture a very high resolution image, properly displayed, then it could be as good as going there. So there are complementary services which have to be developed to develop our objectives of a new era. So I'm going to focus today on numismatics, which is what I am mostly interested in, coins. And often, coins are one of the largest parts of any collection in the museum. In this museum, there are about, I think there are about 250,000 objects, of which about 80,000 are coins. So they represent often the largest collections in most museums of our kind. So they have to be conserved, preserved, preservation, security, museum display, and making them available for scholarly research is very important. And unfortunately, that is one of the regions which our museum has not progressed very much in. So I hope that this will motivate them to do that. And a lot of this was sort of, we have basically inherited old colonial attitudes of looking after things, and those colonial attitudes developed in the era of without the technology we have today, and they were required in that era. But the digital era has changed the whole environment, and therefore you could have security as well as sharing all your things, all your items with everybody. So coins are very important because a piece of metal, they do survive very long. We have pieces of metal which are almost 3,000 years old. And they tell a lot about the trade and economy, the metallurgy and technology, and the culture and iconography of the society that they represent. So coins that way give us a lot of information about society and their items, unlike paper, which survive through the generations. But to really get the maximum out of a coin that you have found, you need to know where that coin was found, in what sort of environment was that coin found. And if you don't have that detail, then you just have a coin and you may not be totally 100% sure whether this coin is even genuine, because there are some people who make very clever replicas. And therefore, there has to be some means of retaining that information as to where that coin was found. Now, a coin that has been found in an archaeological excavation, then you know exactly at what height below the ground that coin was found and where it was found. But majority of the items that we have with us are not actually discovered in archaeological excavations. I think at more than 10 times the number are found accidentally in digging wells and whatever, or found in illegal activities such as treasure hunting. Now this is the problem that we have. The government has declared that every item that is found in the ground is property of the state. So if you find something in your ground, these are the antiquity treasure trove laws that were inherited from the British. So basically, if you find a coin, you can risk trying to keep it and risk the government coming and confiscating it from you because it is illegal to possess it because you found it in the ground. Or you can do something which is drastic, which is to melt it and get the gold and sell the gold. So unfortunately, large number of the coins that are gold and silver coins that are found in this country get destroyed because the finder has no safe way of using that find. So I told this and I tried to get the laws changed in this country, and a lawyer who was of the archaeology department who was drafting a new antiquity act said, "We'll make melting of coins illegal." And I just laughed. I said, if that was his attitude, I knew I was a huge uphill task of actually trying to convince them to do something serious about changing the laws. So in Sri Lanka, it is on the other hand not illegal, I think same as in India, to possess an ancient coin with you. You can have it, there is no problem. It's not illegal to possess it. But it is illegal to hunt for coins. Things like metal detectors are banned in this country. And if you have a coin, you cannot take it out of this country, which is on the antiquities law, which is good. But now, I have very often, somebody has come and I collect coins, and they come and provide me with material. Now, I have no idea where this coin came from. It may have come from an illegal date, or it could have come from somebody's ancestral collection which has been handed down the generation. So I assume it is from the ancestral generation, and I acquired. And the government also cannot tell me that it is otherwise, because there is no total inventory of all the items in this country. Now, if there was an inventory of every single coin and artifact which is belonging in this country, then if there is anything else, anything new, then it has to have come from the ground, and therefore it should belong to the state. So this was actually brought into law in 1988, where they brought an Antiquities Act, Cultural Antiquities Act, which said that every antiquity should be registered with the government. Unfortunately, after experimenting and implementing it in Mathare district, they realized that it was totally impractical, and that was 1988 when they actually tried it. I'm sure it is practical now, but it has not been thing. And the next thing that you have when you get one item like this, and I have got quite a few like that, is that you don't know where it was found. They will not tell you where it was found because they are scared. And even if they tell you some story, you have heart, you won't believe it because there is no way of verifying that fact. So you have very valuable coins which you don't know where it was found. So therefore, since you don't know, you cannot tell that it has come, so the laws need to be basically changed so that we can have a more proper way of doing this thing. So Asian countries have got these treasure trove laws from Britain. Britain, on the other hand, has realized that these things don't work, and they have changed their laws in England. We still have our old British laws with us. So I guess we are preserving antiquity far better than England. So they have basically changed their treasure trove laws, and they make it that the person who finds it has some can claim some sort of ownership to the item. And they basically, their laws, and from that they have created a database called finds.org.uk, in which all these items that are found using metal detectors are catalogued and reserved, and anybody in the whole world can actually search those catalogs and find out what coins have been found. So the new law, under the new law, all coins that are found using metal detectors have to be reported to the local coroner. I'm not sure why it's the local coroner, but that is the way that it is talked about in England. And the coin has to be made available to the British Museum. Even if I'm a collector, I cannot keep the coin without first offering it to the British Museum. And if the British Museum thinks this is extremely rare and of a national treasure, they can buy it at an estimated market value. And therefore, anything of value, of national importance, will go into the British Museum with the provenance as to where it was found at what depth, because that information also has to be provided. And if it is not purchased by the British Museum or a few other museums which are also in the system, then the finder gets legal ownership with certain rules as to if it was found on government land, the government gets half of the value, and if it was found on somebody else's land, he gets it or whatever. So what has happened is that in that way, the national museums are enriched with these items, which otherwise would have been melted, and not only is the item available, but the full provenance of where it was found is also available. So that is what is needed in South Asia. So this is the finds.uk website online, and where you can go and search using keywords. It has about 1 million objects now, and in 18 years it has recorded about 1 million objects, 650,000 finds, 1 million objects, and half of those are coins. And half of the coins have actual image data as well. Normally it has the image, the weight, and all the other relevant information about it. And even if it has been returned to the finder and he has taken it away, it is that all that information is there. With geographic information, I can ask a question as to where Roman coins were found in England, and it will give me the distribution and where it was concentrated, more coins were found. So this is an extremely valuable database which is growing very rapidly over the last 18 years. And this is what we need for South Asia as well. So in current status of Sri Lanka, records are still kept on paper. Unfortunately, I was told that the archaeology department went and archived a lot of these items, and they have it all on paper, unfortunately, not on the computer. Collections are handed from one curator to another, and these curators cannot even identify the coins. So without images, they can't cross-check that they're actually accepting the same coin that should be there. No digital database exists of any of the national or archaeological museums, and basically without this information, you cannot have the security and the digital integrity of numismatic collections cannot be ensured. And this is what I think the director of this museum said, that they were going in for scanning all the objects by 2016. I hope she changes her mind and starts it right now, because that's when it should be started. So this, I wanted to quickly show this. This is a gold Adakahawanu, one of the most rarest coins in our collection in this museum. Unfortunately, it was stolen in March of 2012 from the display cabinet. And not much publicity was actually given for the loss. It was like the Mona Lisa getting lost from the Louvre, and they say some paintings were lost without actually specifying that this coin was lost. It was underestimated, and finally when the robber was captured, he claimed that the coin had been melted by him. And I sort of wonder if we had given enough publicity of the fact that this was the most valuable item to have been stolen, then maybe that robber would have had second thoughts before putting it in the melting pot. I'm not sure whether it was actually melted or whether that was a story. So maybe it will turn up in some collection abroad. But that's what we have, the current status here. So conservation is very important with coins, and documentation is needed before and after you do conservation, because you don't know what conservation might do to your coin. And let's say I gave the next example is you can scan coins and get high resolution images. And a lot of people who see coins in museums think that they come out of the ground, nice and clean. This is a coin which I obtained from Uhuna about 10 years ago. And this is what it looked like when I was given it. And I sort of looked at it and I sort of said, okay, I think I know what that coin is, and I purchased it. And even though I was not sure what I will see, I did do some conservation of it, a little bit of learning, trial and error, and it was fabulous when I found that this was an elephant and swastika coin, which is what I thought it was. And I could see all these symbols, here, the elephant here, the bow tree here, the child here, and the real swastika. So the four symbols, and this is a coin of Devanapiyat, is supposed to have been a commemorative coin issued for the visit of Mahinda Thera from India. the 4 symbols associated with Buddha's life. So that's conservation which is required. This is a collection of Dutch VOC coins from the Dutch Museum display. Dutch Museum in Petta. It's a fabulous little museum. If you have the opportunity to go and visit it, it's a bit difficult to find, but it's a fabulous little museum in a heritage building. I did this when I had to do a report on the coin collection in this museum. And when I went to when I scanned this, the other side of the coins, that was what it was. It had been glued onto the display case, and when it had been taken out of the display case, it had all the red canvas, including, which said that they used very secure rubber glue to paste the coins onto the board. So this is the tragedy. These coins are extremely valuable. Some of those coins must be worth at least $100,000 or more. So this is unfortunately the current state of those coins. So this sort of conservation is hopefully not required, but unfortunately in this environment they are. Those pictures I took 2.5 years ago, as far as I understand, the coins have not been conserved for 2.5 years, which is sad. It should have been done a long time ago. And I know of conservation that has been done. It's been done with people looking at the coin with the naked eye, and they use instruments which leave behind scratch marks on the coin if you look at it under magnification. And since they don't see those scratch marks to the naked eye, they don't think they have done any harm to the coin. So I have seen beautiful uncirculated coins with scratch marks on one side and the other side being okay. That's because they have not known how to think. And it's a simple problem to solve. You don't need to glue a coin to keep it on a slanted slope. You can just cut a hole in the board and drop the coin in, and it will stay there without slipping down to the bottom. Just for the sake of not cutting a hole, they put gum and paste it. So these are a few examples of ways of not to display coins. This was from a collection I got, two photographs I took in Thailand, where the coins are so far below the display, you cannot actually see any features on the coin. Even if you carried around a magnifying glass, you can't magnify it because it is 6 or 8 inches below the front top surface. So this is not a way to display coins. But when you are displaying coins, you do have to ensure that the coin is close to the glass, that you can take a magnifying glass. And you can use, this is a display I took of a photograph in Malaysian Coin Museum, where they had a magnifying glass which could be rolled across the cabinet, and you had mirrors below it so that you could see the other side of the coin as well. So there are a lot of techniques that can be used to improve the way that coins are displayed. This is also a picture from, that was previously was from Thailand. This is from Malaysian Museum of, Central Bank Museum of Malaysia, back on Agra Museum, where they had vertical panels to show all of their currency notes pulled out. You can pull each panel out from the rack and look at them. They had drawers to show coins, and this way, if you take this way, you can show a lot of material which you cannot show in a room, because this is very compact form of displaying lots of currency and lots of coins, so that you can show more than you can show in cabinets or single display room. So this was very efficient display of material, and I thought this was in Thailand. You could even step into the picture. They were showing how yak money, how the big things, and you could even make it a photo opportunity and move into the picture. Another thing you can, this is a picture of a currency note issued in 1885 in Sri Lanka when we first issued government currency. You can see the watermarks behind, and that's something that is worthwhile showing in a display of currency, because just looking at the face of the currency everybody has seen, but looking at the watermarks is quite interesting. And it's quite interesting, this is a watermark of an 1885 currency note, which has the elephant and the dagger, which is a symbol which was going to be the national symbol, but for some reason it didn't become that. And this is another currency note from the 1940s. So, you can want to display modern currency, nobody is interested in seeing the modern currency because modern currency everybody has seen and used. But if you display it in ultraviolet light, then you see a completely different currency note than what you see now. And therefore, that is fabulous. So, what I try to summarize, the museums should be on the internet, and am I taking too much? Okay, that's the enclosed. So we want to use museums to be put on the internet, a global platform to provide remote access to museums. And the British Museum is there. They have put a huge amount of objects online. And this was mentioned yesterday that all of the Indian museums are going online with this announcement of 10 museums going online. And I looked it up this morning and I found there were 7 Portuguese coins listed in that catalog, and it was easy to find and see the details on the coin. So that's a fabulous resource. Thank you for talking about it yesterday. So I think there are standard software to put all this stuff online. Things that collectiveaccess.org is a generalized system to put online, and I think I will end with that. So just providing access to data is insufficient to satisfy the goals of public education. Museums need to be offer enriched value-added content so as to archive better quality services. They need to exceed the physical limits and adopt new technologies to enhance their role in a changing cultural landscape. And with that, I will end. Thank you.
So, Ratna actually covered all the aspects of the respective collections in the digital era. It criticized with his criticism on the way of island way of displaying coins, and they appreciated the effort by Malaysian way of showcasing and display of coins were appreciated. I think we must, this is the question. So we must learn some valuable input provided by him in his paper. And now I am inviting Professor S. Rose from India to present his paper on the three-dimensional reconstruction and analysis of an ancient Buddhist monastery in India, the museum story. Mr. Professor S. Rose.
I'd like to thank Dr. Garg and Ms. Apsara. Without them, I wouldn't be here. And my student, Mr. Tushar Agarwal, will do a little bit of my talk, with your permission. So, without much ado, I'll start my lecture. I'll begin with a quotation which I read this morning, and that very nicely sums up what is the nation's responsibility towards museum building. And the quotation is, "A nation writes its autobiography in the antiquarian remains, and museums preserve them for posterity." So that sums up. This is a European quote, and this is an English translation. So we'll be talking about Ratnagiri University. I wish the members from Orissa were here. I would have got their feedback. This is a Buddhist monastery which is about 2000 years ago and existed between the 5th and the 13th century. Now, drawing on to Dr. Soni's lecture, I don't know if he's here, he was talking about cultural sustainability, and in our lecture, I'll touch upon how that university was sustainable for 800 years when the primary sources of energy that they had was only the sunlight and energy from the wind and fuel wood and oil. So the excavations started in 1958 and went on to 1961. And you can see that this university was founded on top of a hillock. And last night we were shown the relics of Lord Buddha, Buddha's hair, and interestingly, Buddhist relics were also enshrined here in Ratnagiri. Next. So this is a close-up, and this is what it looked like when the excavations were on. So now what is most interesting is, can I have the next pointer? Can I have the laser pointer, please? So what is interesting is this quadrangular feature that you observe, and it was a very compact university. So that is Ratnagiri University, and we notice that this feature of a central courtyard has been repeated across many cultures in the world. I mean, a lot of these European universities have that central feature. Nalanda had that central feature. So the purpose of this presentation is starting with what we see today. Can we reconstruct what it looked like earlier? So this is what it looked like after the excavations were rendered for public view, and now we will show you a bit more about what the Archaeological Survey of India did. What characterizes this university is this ornate gate called the Jade Gate. This is made out of candlelight, and you can see idioms of Orison architecture as early as 2000 years ago, with this highly chiseled and sculpted facade, possibly to enable the rituals of royalty and the pomps and splendor associated with ceremonies, that we have such an ornate gateway. Next. So the legacy of Ratnagiri, as I said, it's thrived for 8 centuries sustainably, and we have much to learn from why it survived the way it did survive. Next. So it was perched on top of a hillock, and that gave it an advantage. We know that when kites do not fly, a little boy climbs up the top of a roof and lets up the kite, and the wind takes over. That example points to the fact that the wind speeds are higher above than at the ground, and it made sense that without artificial ventilation, a sort of heating, ventilation and air conditioning, the monks had to be comfortable, and it made sense that it was done on a hilltop. And what you notice is the building fabric, the materials of construction that was used. There was a lot of stone that is used, and you can also see standard dimension bricks that make up the building fabric. Next. So here you can see a stone facade, and inside we have bricks. Now these building fabrics have different material properties. Their thermal transmittivity or the U value in technical parlance varies. So they're using composite material to achieve thermal comfort, and we will show how that was achieved. So this is what we have said. They have composite building fabrics, and the layout is a quadrangle. Next. So this jade gate is made out of candlelight, and it looks exactly like this. If you went there today, you would see it like this. Now, as you enter this ornate jade gate, you see the Buddha statue. Obviously, this was a Buddhist monastery, and that was the piece de resistance for this exquisite university. Next. So the implications of our work. So This forms part of a session that deals with applications and technology. So we will demonstrate how a remotely sensed image, which we have got through various sources, can be reconstructed into foundations, walls, and voids. And then we will try and provide an accurate reconstruction as it was in the past days. We have done a little documentary for SAARC just to show how that can be done. And then interestingly, our heritage structures in the SAARC countries are along the tropical belt, where the ravages of nature leaves an imprint that is often indelible, and we have to reverse that. That we want to provide the effect of wind-blown dust particles onto heritage sites, and how this wind-blown dust obliterates sculpture. Detailing that will be talked about by my student, Mr. Tushar Agarwal, who will show you mechanical engineering simulations to address that issue. And then we will quantify the levels of thermal comfort, and here's where sustainability comes, that we will show why the university survived the way it did. So for that, we have to, again, get a little technical, we have to adopt tiers of downscaling. We saw that the monastery was perched atop a hill, so obviously the thermal comfort inside the buildings required a detailed knowledge of the large-scale wind patterns. And obviously Orissa is a state in India which is dominated by the monsoons, the southwest monsoons, unlike Sri Lanka and parts of Tamil Nadu where we have the winter monsoon and the summer monsoon. And so the seasons are very clearly delineated here, and so we will need first a large-scale approach, how the dominant winds blew over the monastery. Then we will downscale it to a city scale, what was happening in that valley. Then we will downscale it to the building scale, what was happening in the courtyard. And finally, we will show you wind flow patterns inside the monks' living quarters. Next. So that's the starting point, a Google Earth image of the Ratnagiri monastery as it stands today. And this is a reconstructed image from an environmental incidentally NVMet was developed by my colleague at Cambridge when we were together, and he is from Sri Lanka, Dr. Harindra Fernando. He was here when the tsunami happened, both of us were. So that is Harindra's creation, which is an environmental software that details the amount of trees and the shrubs. Obviously, these are affecting the flow of the winds as it is entering the Jade Gate and is meandering through the Mount cells. Next. So this is, after we run the software, and if you like, Tushar and I can show it, give a hands-on demonstration on how to do these for heritage reconstruction sites. This is done. This is perhaps the first application anywhere in the world. So we can see that the longer the wind vectors, the higher the wind speeds. So roughly we know what the winds were like here inside and outside. And that brings us to the next issue, was the orientation right? I mean, over lunch we were discussing the intuitive knowledge that the South countries have, something called the Vastu Sastra, and a separation of the superstitions from scientific theory. This is another example where is that structure rightly aligned to capture sunlight properly and the winds properly. Next. So here, with that software, we were able to find out seasonally what the winds looked like with and without vegetation. That this will help tell the government if you cut down trees around heritage sites, you're messing around with the play of the winds. Next. So in order to do an architectural reconstruction, we labeled, so that's the Jade Gate, and this is flank D and flank A, B, C, and D. And we will focus attention on room number 20, which is the largest room, where we'll show you how how comfortable that room was in that space. Next. So this is where we will. So now I'll just quickly flash. This is how the interface between engineering and museum development comes in, because wind is a viscous fluid that is flowing over a surface and it is encountering obstructions. So we roughly know in technical parlance these effects, the wind flow characteristics, where flow separation is happening, where edge effects are happening, wind flow in the courtyards, and then we mark out the various seasons, and roughly so the tenets of engineering that was touched upon is basically fluid mechanics and heat and mass transfer. So yesterday we were discussing about combining elements of education into museum stories. This is one example where Tushar did this course with me called Energy in the Built Environment, and I thought it would be a very nice thing that rather than teach the course in a theoretical way, they worked on this theme and then studied all these effects that cover the entire syllabus. So we found out that the rooms on Plank B are best ventilated over the summer, but interestingly, Plank A, can you show the flanks again, please? You would think that Plank B is plank gone opposite, which this would be the best set of rooms there all the year round. But only after a detailed analysis, we found that not during the monsoons, which is significant, it's just 3 months. It's line A, which is best ventilated. Next. So then we look at the building scales. From that, we reconstruct. This is using Autodesk EcoDect, and we knew that the Ratnagiri Monastery complex was double-storied. Next. So this is to tell you how the daylighting, that's the sun, and modern software will tell us what parts of the room will be covered by shadow. And you can see that this has a diagonal variation which we know. Next. Can I have a little bit of extra time, please? And this is showing you diffuse radiation inside the building. Next. I think we'll skip these because I started a little late and I would like to continue. Yeah. So this is to show you how computational fluid dynamics was used to find out the distribution of wind velocity. You can see trailing vortices. Roughly, we can know where it's windy and where it's not windy. Now, I'll tell you why this is essential. We talked about son et lumière, sound and light shows. I've seen some marvelous ones in India, and if we were to develop son et lumière shows, this would tell us, will give us a foreknowledge where we should have nuance lighting and where we should not place sources of sound. Next. So this is what the reconstructed double-story monastery looks like. Next. I think we will do the film now. We did a little film and then we will take over. Skip that, I don't think we have time for that. So this is the reconstruction. What we will show you is what it looked like after the excavations and what it must have looked like 2,000 years ago. We have done it through only computational fluid dynamics.
Thank you.
But it's not over yet.
Respected guests present over here, dignitaries on that. As a student yesterday, I emphasized upon how engineering applications have helped me bridge the gap between archaeology and the things that I study. Well, to go further with what Dr. Sonu said yesterday about cultural sustainability, and he's mentioned the 4 pillars of cultural sustainability. Basically, sustenance has 4 main pillars, and 2 of them is one is environment, social, economic, and then culture. So when we come to the environment and the cultural part, that's what we're emphasizing on this paper. Being on the tropical belt, the SAARC nations have numerous artifacts which are today under threat from obliteration because of the environmental impacts. Environmental impacts caused by us, environmental impacts caused by nature itself. Dust particles are a major threat. They tend to blow away with the wind. Though the heavier dust particles settle down at an earlier stage, the lighter dust particles tend to fly over a longer range, and as a result go and get lodged in between these sculptings and depths of the facades mentioned in the monastery, which tend to obliterate the design, the way it was constructed, the beauty of this construction. So to determine the amount of dust that is being accumulated inside these monasteries, inside these sculptings, we went a step ahead to determine the depths of the sculptures through a novel method. I'll quickly brush through it. It's been mentioned in the paper, you can definitely look at it. Basically, we would take Adobe Photoshop, a simple software, and trigonometry to get to know the depths. This has not been done before. It's a really novel method. Instead of using basic depth analysis from other important and difficult software, we've used simple software. And this has been explained in the paper, so since we have lack of time, I'll move forward. Basically, these are the 4 sculptures we analyzed depths for around the Lanka Jade Monastery. And the values for the depths that we obtained are as such. The actual depth was 27, and length per pixel, if you go through the paper, you'll understand what length per pixel is 0.33. Based on all these carvings which shown, we found out the depths, which turned out to be plus or minus 2 centimeters in accuracy. Based on these depths, we did the dimensional reconstruction as Sir was already showcasing, and then we moved forward looking at the Aerial Monastery. We did a dust particle projection or trajectory of the wind-blown dust particles, and as you can see, this is the exact trajectory of the wind-blown dust particle. I'll just play this simulation. The monastery right now. As you can see, the smaller particles are moving away from the monastery, whereas the larger particles get embedded inside the monastery, and they go and affect the northeast corners of both the Jade Gate entrance and towards the rectangular, quadrangular area. And that is the region which is being affected by these dust particles, and the sculptings are getting obliterated because of that. So basically, we did a particle demonstration of how much particles is getting accumulated per year. And since the monastery is right now at 61 years, at less than 1 millimeter per year accumulation of dust particles, we determined that based on this diagram, or at the Jade Gate, there would be approximately 50 millimeters of dust particle accumulated within the carvings. Just imagine an obliteration, the level of obliteration found on these carvings, and the way the beauty of these carvings are being diminished day by day. So this can be prevented because of today's measures where we know, pre-forecasting, where we know that yes, there's going to be a sandstorm, today we can move forward and we can protect these monastic complexes, be it any architectural firm, architectural construction present in the world, with either a covering or anything that we could provide by the governmental organization, and thus prevent such obliteration of the monastic site. Dr. Ghosh will end with one small paragraph.
So basically, we have shown how modern engineering can reconstruct the past in telling details. And I've written a book which is called the Lanka University, which I thought SAARC would be a nice place to launch the book. And I have only 5 copies left. They're all sold abroad in America and England, and I'm going to England next week. So the money will go to for geriatric care, and it's only about 300 rupees to buy. I'll end with why a meeting like this is necessary and why technology can help enhance the music experience, and I'll read from the book. Likewise, a soil lumiere show has modulated lighting. Lights are dimmed and brightened to heighten special effects. These shows are usually done when the sun has set. If one were to replicate the midday Lanka of Ratnagiri Monastery, the optimal daylight levels proxying noontime glare can be modelled with ease in a manner just described. Likewise, if we were to hear the footfalls of time along the far corridors of the beyond, we would have to have an equally scintillating soundscape. The audience must be regaled and enthralled by the enchantment of the ringing bells and must revel in the richly cadenced chanting as they enjoy the soirée lumière. The presence of the mean flow and its interaction with the eddies would determine in which directions the notes would flow, where the bass and soprano chords would separate, where the clang of the cymbals would most startle, and where eyelids would close with the most feather-like touch of distant sound. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abhishek. I'm from New Delhi in India. I thank the SAARC Cultural Center for having me over, and Dr. Sanjay Garg as well. I'm personally not involved with any museum per se, except for being a user. I take my son to a few museums because he likes them, especially the railway museum. But it's interesting to be a part of a discussion here where people have spoken effectively about museums and the challenges that they face. So I'm essentially not from that background, but I would attempt to take you guys through to a little stuff on technology, and especially mobile technology, and how quickly that is changing the periphery of all businesses, let alone museums. Any business today, let me tell you, not for a very long time, will be able to survive if it does not have a mobile strategy in place. So, while many of us, I do that for a living, I make mobile apps, but for many of you who are not initiated into the field of mobility, which is over and above just making calls and SMSs, it's like a tsunami. It's not a great word to use. We suffered in India as well, but it is something which is going to hit us really badly if we're not prepared for it as a business or as a research center or as a cultural center, because the power of mobility will undermine every other physical aspect that your work currently deals with, because it really is huge. It can take you places. So I would like to begin with that. So I obviously can't expand on museums and what museums mean, because you guys run museums, but according to me, what I derive from a museum is a cultural experience that touches me emotionally. That is why I go back to certain museums, and I continue to do that, and I will do it because it makes me happy. Challenges, many of you have spoken about. As a visitor, these are the challenges I can look at. Funding and staffing is something that technology cannot help you with. But all of the other areas that you see here, be sustainability, I'm talking about economic, environmental sustainability, lack of technology know-how. Many of you haven't dealt with technology in a very personal way, so it's very difficult to suddenly adapt to it. And the speed of response. We see documents and stuff not being updated for months, for years. So that kind of undermines the entire purpose for which you're running a museum. Engaging younger generations. It's extremely critical that we all make youngsters mouthpieces for our organizations. Because if you do that, they will do the social marketing for you, they'll do the word of mouth for you, they'll do the technology for you. It's important that you engage with them if you cannot directly do technology yourself. The problem I feel is when I go to museums, there are no experts who talk to me. That is a big negative at museums. That might be related to staffing needs, but I think it's an essential element for a museum, which I think if a museum is open for 7 to 8 hours, I'm sure a couple of experts can be made available to take us through things that happen. And I think museums need to become, convert from being gatekeepers of information to be able to send out knowledge and information, which currently I think they're not doing. So, what do museums do currently? I'm purely talking about the communications perspective. You set up information kiosks, you do brochures, you make audio-visual presentations, you have guides on board. So these are the kinds of things that you do to currently talk to people who come in. But what are the problems with these current setup? It's expensive. It can be time-consuming to every time print brochures, every time you do something new. So as Dr. Garg was talking yesterday, if a museum has to surprise you every 15 days, you won't be printing brochures every 15 days. It doesn't work for cost, it doesn't work for time, all those factors. And it demands, all these things demand maintenance, which are recurring in nature. That again means cost, that again means time. So what can work for museums and visitors? A common ground. Let's have cost-effective solutions. They should be non-cumbersome. You should not have big panels which you find difficult to move around. If you want to make a museum dynamic, you can't really have a huge machinery which you have to turn around and move around. But content is extremely important. You should have fresh content every time you have something new in the museum, or a different perspective that you employ as a refresher policy for your museum. Because how do you get the same user back again? So it's important getting back again. A museum, most of them are pretty large. They have a large number of exhibits. I'm talking about, say, the 20% which are on display. Even those are quite a lot. And they have a story to tell. So if I do not tell a story every time, the display purpose is really not effective. And we live in a very dynamic world. In India, if you have a museum in Delhi, it doesn't work if you have information in just English and Hindi. You have people walking in from all parts of the states. You have people coming in from abroad. You have Spanish, French, Russian, everybody. There's lots of visitors, and that holds true for all your SAARC countries. You have visitors from all across. So why limit to language which is just prevalent in your country? So technology again can help you with that. And interactivity. So when you talk to people or you're trying to tell them a story, you need to hear back from them as well. And technology is the solution for that. It allows you to hear back from your audience as well. So mobility. In one simple line, I've tried to define mobility for a layman, which says it's to simplify an existing job using your mobile device without being hindered by time, cost, and place constraints. That's what a mobile is supposed to do for you. So just if I take a little poll, how many of you have a mobile handset? If you just do a show of hands, how many of you have a mobile phone? There's nothing to be ashamed of, it's a proud thing. So everybody. So now just quickly think that if all of us have mobile phones, is your museum giving them anything on the phone? It's a question for you guys to answer. You're not giving them anything on the phone. It's great that we have moved to archiving and digitizing on the platform which is the internet. But let me tell you a very interesting figure. By 2017, 80% of your internet traffic is going to come from a mobile device and not from a contemporary laptop. So what we, in our language, we call these people as internet virgins. They have never browsed the internet. The first ever brushed with internet will be through a mobile phone. So are you ready to be on the mobile phone with your content offerings? If you're not, you're going to lose that 60% of the audience, which is going to soon become 80% by 2021, you will lose that entire audience because you're not ready for them. So I picked up this interesting quotation yesterday from Richard Branson. I'm sure all of you know who he is. There's a bit of an irony about this, but he said, "I love the freedom of movement that my phone gives me. That has definitely transformed my life." So while he speaks from a business perspective, the freedom of movement that my phone gives me, that means I always have the phone with me, I'm tied to it. So it's not really freedom, I'm kind of constantly engaging with my phone, which is what most of us do. And telling you about a very important figure about the age bracket, which deals with mobile, which begins 15 onwards, which is a lot of usage on phone. These guys spend anywhere between 30 to 40% of their awake time on the phone. So just tells you how quickly you need to be on the mobile phone. Otherwise, your business, your outlet doesn't stand a chance. So this is a figure from last year, end of last year. So we don't have figures from 2014 yet. Can anybody guess what this number is? It's not population, no. 2030. Not mobile users, but these are mobile guests. Mobile phones sold end of last year. Are you targeting any of the 1.8 billion that are here? That's a huge audience. So if you have a museum in Thimphu or in Dhaka, are you talking to any of these guys? I don't think you are. That's my point is not to offend anybody, but the need to quickly adapt to mobility, to reach the ever-growing audience, the ever-shifting audience. I'll give you an interesting figure from newspapers in India last year. Most of the newspapers, the bigger newspapers, are now online in India. Almost all of them are. But 60% of their readers last year moved to reading their news on the mobile phone. So last year, the newspapers which were not on the mobile phone, which is through apps, they lost their reading audience because this audience was reading their news in cars, in trains, in buses. So people are on the move with your lifestyle. You really don't have much time to sit in one place and do all the reading. So how do you ensure the reading? Put it on the mobile. As simple as that. Very important data for all of you. Look at this. Just look at the growth and look at where we see in 2017. This is social networking. I'm talking about your pure Facebook, Google, Twitter. People have graduated to Facebook. Twitter is still alien to a lot of people. But look at this. Look at I can't even. It's billions of people who are on Facebook. So forget being being on the internet or getting a website for yourself. Just create a Facebook page for yourself and you can start talking to these number of people. It's as simple as that. And a Facebook page is free. Apps. How many of you use Facebook here on the phone? So these are the guys who are using Facebook. This is pure mobile. So Facebook is a mobile app. Now look at how rapidly mobile app numbers are growing. So this number is in millions. So I can't even decipher this number in common language. It's a huge number that is getting downloaded as apps. Do you have an app yet? So this scale, look at where you are, Asia, and emerging markets. Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, China, all of us are emerging markets. The distribution of mobile phone users worldwide. You are already 15%, that is 1/6 of the mobile audience. Again, another reason, a push that you should be on the mobile platform. Now, this is in relation to the population, your population, the Asian population, as a subcontinent, as how many of us are, what is the penetration? So if you look at this, 2014, 40% of our population is on the mobile. That's a huge number already. These you see are mature markets. Latin America for mobility is a very mature market. So this is, and it's an ever-growing curve. It's just going up. So I'll quickly take you through what forms of mobility currently prevail across us. One is, of course, apps, as I said, Facebook. Your museum can have an app which tells you download the app, it tells you about where it is, put it on the map. You can display your exhibits, information, text, audio, video, anything that you have, you can put it on the app, and it will be available to a user worldwide. Then it's mobile web. It's an easier transformation for most of you to make. That you currently have a website, you get it adapted to a mobile version. I was looking at your website, so the Bangladesh website that you mentioned in the morning. I cannot read it on the phone. So you lost an audience there. I'm just giving you an example. I couldn't read it on the phone, and I do not have the time to open a laptop yet. Portable hardware. Portable hardware is, I'll quickly take you through it. There's a little box here which I'm carrying on the table if you see here. That's a little box. Yeah, I will talk about it as well. I'm just showing it to you right now. Just a little box lying there. That is an example of portable hardware. Wearable. I don't know if any of you have about Google Glass. Now, Google Glass is something that you wear like your glasses, and it shows information on your glasses without the other person being able to see it. And you can talk to it, you can give it command. It is not it's not a dream. It's already happening. Countries like US and in UK are using it for their businesses already. For stock taking, some companies in Europe are doing this for stock taking. They wear the Google Glass, go to that, go down, and the person who's otherwise manually counting the pieces is doing that through his Google Glass, and it's getting registered, on the back end as well. Other wearables, the big thing are your watches. Now you're soon going to get watches which can monitor your BP, your heart rate, your pulse rate, everything. So wearables are the next big thing as well. And portable technology is something like Bluetooth, which many of you must have used to transfer some songs from one phone to the other. So Bluetooth is a low range device, but it's very effective. It's a free technology. So that is an example of portable tech. So my quick list for museums who are already not there or do not have a check mark against certain items yet, get onto social media. Get a Facebook page now. You can do it in 3 minutes if you really want to. Get a Twitter handle. People want to talk to you. They really want to talk to you, and they have no time. The only way they will speak to you is through social media. So get a page. It's free. Get a website. Many of you have a website, and I said get a mobile site. Adapt it to mobile, and it will work great. People will be very happy. They'll thank you. Get an app. I mentioned about the importance of the app. Our Prime Minister also, thankfully he has a great vision for technology and digital use, which going ahead will only help our country. And all our businesses, look at the private sector, 40% of businesses that deal with consumers, these are B2Cs, in India have a mobile engagement strategy in place already. So that means they're talking to their users through apps. Apps can give feedback. So you don't like a product, you take a picture of that and go directly to the bosses there. That is how effective this is. And employ smart hardware. You can put big LCDs and LEDs, but you can't really move them once you have them. So important thing is, what is the smartest hardware that is around you? Which I think during the keynote yesterday also was mentioned. And you mentioned today as well, is bring your own device. BYOD is the keyword for developing countries. A user loves his mobile phone. So if you want to give him another device, a book, a brochure, he's not going to take it, he's going to trash it. You have to make him do things on his mobile phone and he'll immediately take to you. Because he does not. How many times of the day do you keep your phone away from you? You can't. You just have to see it, you put it in your pocket, you suddenly worried where it is. That's the power of the phone, and that is what already is there. So you just have to get onto it. Just a quick, I spoke about Bluetooth. So there is something very interesting which museums can use. It's a very cost-effective solution, doesn't cost much. It's called Beacons. It's an open source Bluetooth technology. If you see these things, these are little devices which are just pasted below exhibits, if you see this. Now this works on Bluetooth. These are pre-programmed. You put on the Bluetooth on your phone and you're walking in this hall. For example, if I put one near the India flag, the moment you're near it, it will send information to your phone about the India flag automatically, discover it, because there is a tag on it which will identify the thing on your phone and it will send it to you. That is how effective it is. So you put it under artifacts, put it next to a certain coin collection and ask the user, put posters saying just switch on your Bluetooth when you want to go in. And you go in and immediately keeps telling you all the information that you want to tell you. You don't need a guide, you do not need displays, you do not need LEDs, LCD TVs. So look at it as a great cost saving measure as well. And it's great. And where are you doing it? On the phone. Whose phone? The consumer's phone. And he'll always have a phone. Quickly, just on this device. This device is something that we made, and I thought it would be great to talk about it. I was here in August in Sri Lanka, with this device for a couple of businesses. But it has a great, I was thinking the technology is great use for something like a museum or a closed door environment, if I say I have put it on here. So any of you who have a smartphone, if you put on your Wi-Fi now, you will see a network called SAARC. If you connect to it, this box is already on. That's it. That box is connected with just 5 volts of power which I put next to it. It does not need a server. It does not need anything else. It needs a TV screen which is your phone. So I have saved it in every manner in terms of cost and given you just a little box which you can use. So imagine I have it here. Now you're in the SAARC conference and you see a network called SAARC. You connect to it and then just launch any browser on your phone, Google Chrome or Firefox, whatever you have. If you launch the browser, now just enter saarc.com on it and enter. Did you get it? Yeah. Did a site open? So now a site is open about this particular event, and if you go into any of the tabs, there is audio, video, PDF documents, PowerPoint presentation in it, which is your phone is pulling from this box and there is no internet. Your phone does not require an internet, so you do not need to set up a server, you do not need anything. That box holds 1 terabyte of data. For anybody who knows basic computer language, that's a lot of space. That means roughly 300 movies, that much space. That amount of data you can put in this box. And it can be any media format and it goes to your phone without internet. So you have a museum somewhere in the back of beyond where there is no network connectivity, no 3G, 2G, forget all of that. You don't need it. So it's just an example of technology being able to transmit it. So you can watch it while you're sitting here. You can watch the SAARC videos. I put some dummy examples on it. You can just watch them. You're not using any internet. You don't need internet. That box is creating a local Wi-Fi zone here. So just a quick thing. So technology. Let's not talk about this example. Technology is green. Mobility is extremely green as technology. You do not. You're saving on paper. You're saving a lot of paper. You don't need to use paper. It's extremely low cost. From your traditional mediums of big machinery, it's very low cost. It's a great space saver. If I put this box under the table, you can't see it. Yeah, so that's a SAARC video playing. It's portable. I can pick it up and put it anywhere. So you can have one in every hall, and it only talks about exhibits of that particular hall. And everybody has a phone. So you eliminate guides, you eliminate brochures, you eliminate everything. So you don't, as I mentioned, you don't need servers. You can refresh content on this as you refresh content in your museum or in your outfit. It uses the visitor's phone, which is something that he loves. That's why I put it in bold. There is no internet needed on either side. And you can give the museum experience to the visitor to take home. You know, you've shown him some great coins there. While if I go in a regular museum, I see it. But can I take it home? No, camera is not allowed inside. Okay, fair, camera is still not allowed. But the museum has put some pictures inside the box. Take those pictures, take them home, show it to your kids. Share it on WhatsApp, share it on Facebook. Nothing stops you. You know, so that is how you will engage with your audience and be able to grow it, and that is the role technology will play. Just a simple few facts that I'm going to end with, which all of you probably will have a good laugh about and relate to. The average user reaches for their phone at 7:31 a.m. in the morning. That's a worldwide average. Yeah, you look at your phone at around that time. you check your email and Facebook before you get out of bed. That's an embarrassing reality about India already. But you know, and I see Sri Lanka going down that route as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be bad, but the point is, you cannot stay away from phone. Bangladesh is a very active mobile market, and I know of that. Nepal is a very active market, and so is Pakistan. You know, so that's what you do. These are your habits, and so you obviously can't change these habits because mobile is very important for you as an individual. So you just have to ride on it. Great stat for all of you. We pick up our phones 1500 times a week on an average. That is how much you are looking at that phone. So if you are looking at that phone, you have to give him something on the phone. There. Average owners use their phone for 3 hours and 16 minutes in a day. So a lot of that average is made up by users like me because I'm always on my phone. It's my work. Plus I love to be on Facebook and Twitter, but that's what it is. That's what the international average is currently. And almost 4 in 10 users feel threatened if their phone is not around them. I mean, answer it to yourself. If you don't find your phone, how panicky do you get? You know, so that's the importance of a mobile device in your life. Thank you. If there are any questions, happy to take them after. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Abhishek Guleja, for your role of mobile technology, for your presentation on the role of mobile technology. And I feel in the presentation of Mr. Abhishek Guleja, the objective of SAARC Culture Center, at least with reference to this digital era in museum management, is complete, not with respect to time, but in real sense, because here we are generally museum professionals who are presenting their paper, but from the consumer point of view, we came to know what are the difficulties actually digital in the museum face and what are their expectations from the museums are. So I think our three presentations on this museum management and modern technology. Dr. Ratnatunga has presented his paper very critically on curating museum management collections in the digital area, with a specific reference to how to showcase the shrines and what are the laws and what are this laws actually where these laws we want amendment in the law for the lawmakers, for the persons in the state, in the respective country. I think they will be able to incorporate the suggestions made by Mr. Dr. Ratnatunga, and we are thankful to Mr. Professor Ghosh also, and it is the student Tushar, who actually presented his paper with a specific blending of architectural engineering and mechanical engineering with this museum development of museum. So this is also a very, this will become a very fruitful and learning paper for generations to come, because this will lay foundation for the other students in this civil engineering, architectural engineering and mechanical engineering who go for this music development area. And heartiest thanks from staff to Mr. Abhishek Guleja for actually giving us a feedback from the viewpoint of digital in the museum. And by the way, one thing I had actually forgot to add in my paper when I presented, when Mr. Guleja was presenting the paper, I found that I must here let you all know the government of India has also actually has launched a mobile application named Sanskriti. The Sanskriti is a mobile application to view cultural events of India. The main categories of events that can be viewed are they have given on music, dance, exhibitions, film shows, literature, lecture, and programs for children. When you see the Sanskriti, apply this mobile app, so you will find all the and the sub-activities under this all these nine categories. You will find what are the museums where the exhibitions are, what is the time. So I think Mr. Abhishek Girija's location has been, to the certain extent, has been taken care of by the government of India, and other museums in South Asian region will also apply the same technology for their museums. Thank you very much.
Human civilization is destroyed, and if aliens were to come and colonize our planet, they will look at our mobile phones and the data that is stored here to reconstruct the Earth civilization as it has happened.
Now, right now you're displaying coin, you display mobile phones there. That's what will happen.
Just to offer my thanks to all the presenters. Very enlightening. I have millions of questions actually. We have no time, so what to do? I really enjoy the mobile, the technology, the mobile, how we can use. I found myself that when I look at the presentations of Abhishek, I found myself, I belong to Stone Age. So, very primitive, very Stone Age, but I'm holding the stone, what that is, mobile, I could not relocate where. So, but how, because the mobile user, the museums you are talking about, our audience, how we are going to lose if we are not really update ourselves. But what about that, I think only educated people can access. What about the farmers, what are the monks, like me, very stupid monks coming from the Himalaya, how we can access if we are interested in artifacts in the museums? How you are going to provide?
I clarify before he says anything. Like he's a monk with an iPhone. So that answers your question. So he already has an iPhone. I just need to tell him how to use it. So one problem is solved. No, so let me give you some data from India. Already 30% of the mobile traffic, mobile internet traffic comes from our rural areas where people can't read. But they play music, they watch movies, they understand symbols. So pictures is the best way to make people understand anything you want. You just want, it's a display. How do you do display for an exit sign? It just says an arrow. Or no parking is a cross. That's what you need to employ. It's basic sign language, which is not held ransom to by language. You know, so just use pictorial representations are most fabulous. They break barriers, they break languages. You do not need anyone to understand those. Just use those. And as I told you, we are equally fascinated by the number of users we're getting from rural India. That's why the government is suddenly going to rural India, it's because we're seeing more from them. They are the ones who are deprived. And as I spoke about people who are going to use internet for the first time, they are the ones who are using it from their phone from the first time. They don't have a laptop. They never had a PC that I had 15 years ago. So what is their first source of the internet? The phone. And so it completely depends on how you customize your content to them. They don't underestimate the people who are not read. They're very clever. They have made their careers. They're farmers, peasants, whatever. They have their ways of going about things and making it work. We just have to adapt to them, be able to give it to them the way they want, and it's very easy. It's not very difficult. That's why technology is not limited. That's what I mean by technology being all pervasive. It's everywhere. You can actually talk about your museum the moment you're on any of those platforms. You will have more visitors who would have read about. Imagine people having read about the National Museum of Bhutan and then coming here, the questions are more mature because they've read about it, you've given them some material already. Whereas it should not be an offshoot activity that I've come here, so let me go to a museum. No. I read about this museum and it's fascinating, I want to go to it. That's what you need to build. And technology has all those answers for you. All of them. Simple. Just get onto Facebook, forget everything else. Get that, you will have an audience in no time. You have to persist, like any other job, but it's as simple as that.
And Android one is for 6,000 so it is now
Well, Android One is a Google product which has been launched in India last month. I'm just telling people. So I was at that conference. Sundar Pichai, he's senior vice president of Google, who was down in Delhi to launch that phone. Google has huge plans. If they want to sell 1 billion of those devices by 2019, and just in India. That just tells you what companies, they have money at the back of their mind, which is fine, but this tells you how many people will have those things on their hand. But are you giving them enough stuff on it? Are you on it? It's a simple, my equation to you guys is not a commercial equation. My equation to you is to make you understand that the faster you get onto it, the faster your audience will adapt to you, you will get newer audience. If you do not forget newer audience, the existing audience will also shun you. So, I talk about my people of my father's generation. He doesn't use a mobile phone except for calling. But the generation after him, so if he's your average museum visitor right now, once he's gone, you lost a visitor. You do not have a new visitor because the new visitor is only on the phone. He's only on Facebook, he's on email, he's on Google. Are you there? So that's the point, is that we can't change it, but we might as well embrace it in a very positive way, and that's what it is. All of you use email, which we did a few years ago, but we all use it now. You stop sending those posts. We don't send posts apart from the purpose of preserving some stamps that come with it. It's come down to that. It's just a hobby, which is fair, but it's email. It's going to be. You can't even imagine the things technology will do to you in the next decade. So it's good that if we go on to step 2 only, then we can take step 3. The leap from 1 to 3 might be a little too difficult when we want to.
And if they will stand for permanent lot of children are coming, they are that is the thing. At the beginning the label is there. Stand that he told me that is not necessary for that. Then we like that. Printers and
Is it possible to fencing around this fencing? Good fencing?